Hello YouTube, it's K2 Karama, and this is the Philosopher Stonecast again. This is episode 14.
Sure.
Can't believe we've already done 14. Again, if you haven't heard this podcast before, which a lot of you haven't, it's a philosophy podcast where we talk about anything and everything, certain things and topics to open your mind. Also, silly stuff like farts and wieners. I don't know.
Wieners in your nose.
Yeah, stuff like that. Usually we have a topic at the beginning, but we've been kind of working on stuff, trying to figure out a total format for this podcast. But for now, we're going to go and do this a little bit freestyle here.
Freestyle.
Again, we have our usual panel with Kenny and Justin here, and of course, K2 Chroma.
Howdy.
So thank you for joining us. This is the Philosopher Stonecast. We like to see comments. Let us know what you want to talk about, or if you have any interesting things to talk about. That'd be awesome.
Rich
too.
Chigga.
Hey, Kenny, did you make that Gmail account?
Oh, no, I did not. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we're gonna have an email soon.
I have today.
So if you guys
Dude, it's like, think about this. Like, Chris has asked me to do it too, and like we could all have done it. Making an email is like the easiest thing on earth to do. Yet it's like no one wants to do it ever.
Well, no, it's just that, like, I worked until, like, 7 a.m. today.
I know. I mean, I know
And
how
I had
it
to go to
works.
sleep for the most of the day. And it's about, so I haven't really had the most of the day off yet.
But literally, like, I could do it from my phone on a smoke break.
No, I don't have a phone.
Yeah. Are you gonna get a phone soon, Kenny?
Yeah, it should come. I should get a phone soon.
Are you gonna get like an iPhone or something?
No, the cheapest one the Verizon has is like a Android, something like that. I don't know.
I would get an LG Stylo. They're relatively cheap, yet they still have all the components and like hardware necessities to do anything you need to do.
LG is a pretty good brand too.
I don't know how to use majority of that stuff.
It's so
So-
simple that my daughter can use it, and
Your
she's
daughter
four.
may be a lot smarter than me. You want to give me? I think you're giving me those much credit. I don't know how to use those things. I've never used a cell phone. You know, I haven't even been on the internet for a full 10 years.
My daughter knows how to use YouTube already. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like they were born with it.
Well, YouTube,
Yeah.
all you have to do is click and play. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like she found videos that she likes, like not just like clicking random videos. She like we found her one video that she liked, and then from there she's like built playlists, basically, in her related feed.
So I got this little story. Let's start off small today, and then build up to the stuff that happened in Ohio. Was it Ohio?
Chicago
Chicago.
yeah, and some other maybe the same place. I don't know. That's
Yeah. Anyway, the first story I got here is I'm not sure how credible this source is because I haven't really heard of it before. But it says it's from. If you guys are wondering, I don't even know what it's from, but the page just says GH on it. I don't know what that stands for. And there's a big ass ad in the way. Okay. It says Florida just made it legal to break into cars to rescue people's pets.
Makes sense.
With the warmer weather approaching, the law could really save lives. It says if you live in Florida and you see a wilting pooch locked inside a vehicle, you have the right to physically intervene. Recently, Republican Governor Rick Scott signed the House Bill 131 into law, allowing Floridans to break into locked automobiles to rescue animals or vulnerable people who are in immediate danger or suffering harm. Yeah.
What if you lock yourself in your car?
Well, then you're kind of like, I guess you're kind of like the dog then. at that point. So I guess it's okay to break yourself out.
No,
yeah,
but I
you
mean,
have the ability to break yourself
no,
out.
like you're trying to commit suicide, and someone comes and ruins your day by stopping you.
Go and do
Uh,
suicide in a Walmart parking lot. I mean,
that would be a horrible way to do it, though, by
there are
heat
quieter
death.
places.
Yeah, let's go kill yourself by heat death. That's like sounds horrible.
Yeah, that. Well, I guess fall asleep after a little while, so I don't know, or pass out or whatever.
Well, I mean, have you ever been in like Georgia heat with no air conditioner?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's no like, oh, you just nicely fall asleep. No, your ass is fucking sweating your ass off. You don't want to breathe. You're cursing everything. Okay, no, you fall asleep, but you fall asleep mad.
Dude, Chris, you remember the trailer? And like fucking like just yeah.
Living without electricity for like a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, dude.
That was really terrible.
But that back room, dude, for some reason stayed cool. Like no clue why.
I think it's because under that tree.
Yeah, and it was kind of buried into the earth a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. If you go a certain, I think it's like if you go 50 feet below the earth. No, sorry, just not that. Sorry. You go 10 feet below the earth, 10 to 15 feet below the earth. It's like a steady 50 degrees.
That's interesting.
That's how people used to kind of store things. That's why you have cellars and everything like that. They build it down, and then it stores it because of the fact that the ground stays at even temperature.
There's actually a big movement now to start, instead of constantly building refrigeration units, build the underground cellars like they used to build, but with the materials that we currently use for insulation in fridges, to where you create a natural refrigerator that costs nothing.
Well, I mean, it costs nothing in a sense that I mean, people are not gonna know how to install this, and they're not gonna want to install it themselves, especially if you want to put it out there for majority of people to use. So
Well, of course.
You either have to make the instructions really simple, not to mention 55 pages to include every single possible language in the United States and everywhere else. But you have to either that or you have to make the cost of installation and then maintenance, because I mean, even though it is technically a natural cellar, it's going to be prone to wear and tear. It's underneath the ground. It's going to be exposed to moisture. If there's wood that could rot,
There's
either
no
that you're going to have to put more sealer on it.
no, like, dude, it's like you literally, it's a steel carapace with the insulative materials of a refrigerator buried under dirt, and literally the amount of temperature difference combined with that amount of insulation creates a natural refrigerator.
Refrigerator, yeah, but I mean, you still have the issue of, I mean, it's steel, and even if they coat it with a stainless steel, paint as they do, it's not going to hold forever. You're going to have a whole lot of moisture depending on where you live.
Yeah, but my point is, dude, is it's going to last long enough that it's really not going to matter.
Right. I'm just saying, like, it's not technically cost free.
Not technically, but it's so cost free compared to everything else that it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Arguments about refrigerators.
Okay. That's
Like
kind
a
of.
lot of people like in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Alaska, a lot of these places, they actually do that. Well, I mean, it's more may have wood though, because I mean, that's the way they've learned.
And it's a lot of times above ground or just simply slightly buried into the ground, but
Yeah,
it's the natural chill element of living in a place like Alaska that keeps it cool. You could literally install one of these in Florida, and if you install it correctly, it'll stay refrigerated.
Now, would you put steel in the ground in areas that are prone to massive lightning storms, such as like the Florida coast?
I don't think it would really matter if it's insulated with the rest of the ground. The fact that it's steel and the fact that it's beneath the ground, which is the ground surface surfactant element in electricity, it really wouldn't matter. It's like, lightning strikes tall points with high metallic density, but it also just strikes tall points.
Like skyscrapers and stuff.
Yeah.
Don't they get strike all the time?
Yeah. That's why they have lightning rods that send that current to the ground.
they actually, a lot of these buildings are actually trying to take that electricity and like kind of reuse it.
That would
Seems
be badass.
a logical thing to do, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean it's for electricity. You know how much voltage is in that thing?
Yeah, a
Oh,
lot.
dude, there's so much power in a fucking bolt of lightning. It's ridiculous.
It may seem like scavenging, but getting every single power source you can to help the collective, energy needs in a
Well,
city
yeah.
isn't a bad idea. Like you have
No,
skyscrapers, why not put solar windows in those suckers?
it's not a bad idea at all.
You
It's
know,
and it's here's why. If you've ever played any sort of RTS game like real-time strategy, you don't just go with one thing on the technology tree. You you go through and you like completely get all of the different technology trees in the game. It's only logical because you're going to be more efficient with more things to do, more things to use than you will be with just like one or a couple of particular energy producing elements.
right? And that's actually very much a representation of the business involved in that as well. I mean, if you have just one standard business in one area, eventually, it could die out, and then you got Ohio steel manufacturers that left that area poor. You had Detroit and its car manufacturers left that area. They were prone to these one type of you know type of business, manufacturing cars or manufacturing steel. They had no diversity. They had nothing to fall back on. But if you look at places like in California and San Francisco and everything like that, where they have the tech boom, which isn't just the internet. They learned that the hard way. It's not just the internet, but you have all types of starting companies, working on different things from like medical devices to internet connectivity to quantum computers to fusion now, and you have all types of different technologies, and the place is booming. It's actually, unfortunately, it's called like they're painting it in a bad light because it's kicking out a lot of the low wage people who used to work the standard jobs there.
It's basically making it unaffordable to live in the area. If
Yeah,
you,
and it's called gentrification, I think,
yeah,
right? Yeah, and there's arguments that says gentrification isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's progress. It's just these people can't live there anymore. Who adds? And then sometimes you
it's
get stuff like
progress for some people and not for others.
right because they see it as a personal attack. I mean, it's that thing of like you also sometimes where that argument turns into a who adds more value. Does the old value resist in the person who technically helped create the city, the 40, 50 year old, or is it in the new 20, 30 year old who's in a high tech company who earns 80,000 to 100,000 every year?
I would say that there's value. You can't just place so it would be totally arbitrary at
But the
that point.
argument comes to that sometimes. It's like it's progress. The person who produces more for society gets to stay. The person who doesn't produce
Yeah,
as
but
much gets to leave.
the other people also produce for society. It's just, as things change like that, they either have the choice to move out, or I think that they should also have an option to, you know, be able to take advantage of the fact that they were part of the production of of that part of society up until that point. I don't know the exact solution to that problem.
Oh, yeah, I don't think anyone really does. I mean, that's the thing. It's brought up as an issue, but you haven't heard any real solutions because what is a solution? You can't stop what is technical progress. You can't stop that because then you could be seen as government hindering business, or you could be seeing it as as an anti-job type of person
Well,
if you're
yeah,
a
it's the
politician.
same kind of argument that comes along though with like when you go into big coal areas and you're trying to advocate, let's move on to a cleaner energy source that's more efficient, and just healthier for everyone. Well, it's like you're attacking their jobs.
Right, because they've singled themselves down to one
Yeah.
business.
But the point is if you can add that business avenue, those people can adapt to that job. It's just a different form of maintenance. It's still labor.
Right. I mean, it was said that solar jobs would be only available to the highly educated and everything like that. That the laymen couldn't do it. It's not then that they would
Solar panels are pretty basic actually.
Yeah, and it actually it had like consecutive like 13 months consecutive 22% job growth. It actually outpaced oil, it outpaced coal, it outpaced even wind, it outpaced pretty much every single energy sector
Gee,
job
I wonder
creation.
why. It seems
You know,
like there's a lot more of some sort of resource out there than there is these other things.
but you know what's
Yeah.
screwed up
I
is
I
that like
think
there
you
is
guys are missing the point. Like the best uh, uh, energy resource of lighting farts on fire.
there's actually cars based upon farts. There is a car that runs on farts. Um,
Farts. Methane?
Hydrogen
now it doesn't
sulfide or
Whatever.
it
methane?
doesn't it runs on cow farts basically.
Hmm.
So it's
How do
methane.
they collect that? Oh,
Well, you actually believe it or not, like you know how Iowa is like this state where like it's always like who wins the state because it's very mixed as far as like the Democrats, Republicans, or you have people there who who could be technically considered Republican, but they believe in green energy, that type of thing. Like
you guys go on. I gotta pee real quick.
you have farm co-ops who like one will have a wind farm.
Hmm.
Another one will raise cows, and they'll create methane. And what they'll do is that they'll go to these local markets and they'll sell that product together. They'll kind of like combine efforts. If the solar wind farm isn't producing enough electricity, the methane producer will then create that energy and it'll share it and everything like that, and they'll be able, and it's kind of like it's a co-op, so where everybody benefits. Right, so if the methane farm can't necessarily, let's say, find a buyer of the methane, then the solar farm helps out them. It's that and they have this system in Iowa, and so yeah, they actually do collect cow farts.
That's pretty cool.
It looks like a giant
I,
tent.
n- I never knew that. So
Yeah,
that's
it looks like a giant tent. It's a white, huge, giant tent. If you look at it from like our Google Maps, it actually looks like a big chicken house, like one of those big, huge industrial chicken houses.
hmm.
And because it is that size, it's it's
Yeah.
it's
Well, I
huge.
mean, it makes sense because, like, I mean, there's so many cows, like, way more than people, right? Because the industry
Only in
is just
Montana.
huge. Yeah.
In Montana, there's more cows than people.
Yep.
In Vermont, it actually was that way for some time. There was more cows than people.
Yeah. I have another story, but I'm waiting for Justin to get back. Um. Yeah.
It was going like we were discussing this. Like he was talking about like you have like strategy games.
Hmm.
Um, you had to be that kind of like if we were talking about how do you stop progress in order to compromise to the needs of those who can't necessarily benefit from that progress anymore.
Hmm.
And there's actually this game that I play called City Skylines,
Oh,
and
I played that game. That game's fun.
the game is fun. And I mean, I'm really bad at doing traffic
Hmm.
because I can't really create a highway system. But but there is one thing that I do. When my town starts getting big enough, I click the little icon, the little icon that shows you how many people are employed, how old they are, and everything like that.
Uh huh.
I actually I demolish all the old people houses and I build high density commercial real estate, high density residential real estate in the area. I've actually turned an old block, one of my original first blocks, is now looks like a city full of residential skyscrapers. And like the old merchant town that used to be near it, where I put all my shops,
Yeah.
um, uh, they started going out of business, and so when they would go out of business, I would delete them. And then I would put a high density commercial business in this place, and I've actually then created another huge shopping commercial area. And since I've done that, I've obviously gotten more people and more wealth.
Hmm.
Now I could wait until like a neighborhood dies out, where eventually the jobs in the area sucks out. I get rid of the industrial because it's polluting too much, whatever.
Hmm.
Okay. Now I could let it naturally die out, but I would lose a lot of money. I'd have to go somewhere else and create a whole new city by scratch and hope it works out.
Yeah. I always just start over. Like I've
I've done that many
started the
times.
game like so many times. Yeah.
Roads is my biggest thing. Like, today I was lucky because I was able to exit out before it saved. But I had yeah, I had a one-way road going because, like, you know how you start out and you have to connect to a highway.
Mhm.
Well, I started out with a six-lane road, three sides and three on each side. And when I finally got enough people, like there was enough people going through it that there was creating a huge traffic jam. Like there was a huge stop all the way connecting to the ramp to the highway. So obviously I can't have that because nobody gets anywhere they need to go.
Yeah.
So I had to. I finally had earned enough people to get the highway, and so I put the highway down. The problem is that the highway is actually only it's a six-lane one-way road.
Yeah.
So I actually canceled out all the ability of everyone who was going on the opposite side of my highway from moving. So I trapped everyone in the city.
You live here now.
Basically, and so it started being evacuated like real quick. So thankfully I was
Yeah.
able to exit without saving.
Yeah. I usually start off with like I make the road longer, and then I put like one of those big roundabout things, um,
Yeah.
and then I kind of make like a cross, and then I build from there, and then it just I put everything. I just add everything everywhere. Usually, right when you come in the city, I put the shopping or whatever, and then the industrial's like way off on the left side.
Yeah, that's usually where everybody puts it. They
Yeah.
put it off. But what I do is like I know that eventually that industrial area is gonna start abandoning it. It's gonna start abandoning
Mhm.
because when you build up when you do high residential high free when you do the residential skyscrapers
Mhm.
and you get rid of the small houses, those people don't go to work there because they're too educated. Yeah,
Oh.
that's why you get offices and you get high density commercial real estate is because they require the more educated workers. So your original industrial area that you set up for your small town that maybe has a few hundred people or 1,000 people at first, it eventually dies out because it loses workers. So what I do is I wait for that time period and then I dezone it, let it heal, and then I turn it into something else that where it's more adaptive to the city.
Cool. And waiting for Justin here. Just started the podcast. Justin leaves. Okay. I'm sure he has things.
You can go ahead and start the other. You can go ahead and start the other question. That's fine.
The other one.
Yeah, you can go and start the other story. It's fine.
Well, I kind of wanted to see Justin's reaction to this, but I guess we
Okay,
can
well
keep.
then, if you want, I can find a story.
Let me see here.
Oh, did you see the Captain America Civil War commercial?
Yeah, I saw the trailer.
Yeah.
Um,
They put in Spider-Man. Was that actually a surprise to anyone, or were
um,
they really let
there
somebody know?
were rumors about it, and then he was in there. Actually, I think they already knew. But I saw something interesting today about regarding that movie. I saw some toys, or specifically, they were Disney Infinity toys that go with like a game. It's like a game or whatever, Toys to Life deal. Um, and there was a black suit Spider-Man. Now these toys weren't supposed to be on the shelf until sometime next week, and somebody actually bought one, and they said to please return it, um, which is funny. And so the guy at the electronics section got in trouble for it, but it wasn't his fault because he didn't put it out there.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was funny. I got to see all the new toys before they're supposed to be on the shelf, which is really cool because there was another toy that was Captain America, and on the back of the box it showed Venom fighting some. It looked like a villain. I didn't know who it was. I'm sure she was in the other movie. I didn't even watch the whole movie, the last movie.
You mean Batman is Black Widow?
Huh?
Venom is Black Widow?
No, just you know who Venom is?
No.
He's one of the bad guys from Spider-Man, and he basically Spider-Man gets this like suit of like black suit, and it's technically an alien.
Oh, yeah, okay, I know
Yeah,
what you're talking about. Yeah, the
yeah,
last one was
yeah,
was whatever his name was.
yeah, yeah. So I'm thinking is that Spider-Man is going to be in that movie, and then towards the end of the movie, he's going to get the alien or the suit. He gets the suit, the black suit, and then he somehow gets it off, and then it attaches to the guy. I forgot his name, the character's name. His actual name was like I want to say
Tobey Maguire.
I want to say it was like Oswald, which is Venom's character.
Oh,
Uh,
Osborn?
I think so. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
it's Harry Osborn.
And he becomes Venom.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think is going to happen in the movie. If not, if anything, Spider-Man's going to get a metal suit, kind of like Iron Man.
Hold on. Wait, now Osborn turns into the Green, or Oscorp, all that. That's
Yeah.
the Green Goblin.
Well, the second,
Brock.
his son or his father.
Somebody becomes Venom. I forget.
Yeah, but it's Brock or it's Flash. Either way, it's Peter Parker's like jock nemesis in high school.
Yeah.
Oh, Jock Nemesis. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting.
Originals. Yeah, Eddie Brock. Steph looked it up. Eddie Brock.
Were you surprised, Justin, when you saw the Captain America trailer, Civil War trailer, and Spider-Man was in it?
And haven't seen the trailer, but
Okay.
no, I wouldn't be surprised. It's all Marvel.
That was a total spoiler. But yeah, it's
Spoiler alert.
I think it's like I'm more excited to watch that movie than I was Age of Ultron. And I still haven't seen that one. I've only seen like the beginning of the movie like 4 times, but I haven't.
It's all right.
I haven't sat down and watched it.
You know, why haven't I pirated that?
Justin, why haven't I pirated that? Has anyone seen Deadpool?
Oh yeah.
It was awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
I thought it was
Worth it.
I mean, it was a pretty good movie, but I don't think it was like that great. I mean, I didn't
It's
really,
like kids-
I didn't really care for the character of Deadpool that much. I mean,
See, the thing is, like, that's funny.
I get why he's popular. Like, I understand why, but like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess because when I meet people that act that way in real life, I'm just like, I don't really like you.
Because they seem egotistical, maybe.
Yeah. Almost.
Yeah, that's a yeah. I mean, that's just maybe that's sometimes like that's the first image you get of people. It's egotistical. I'm kind of wary of that type of starting attitude as well. But sometimes those people aren't actually bad people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess once you know their story and stuff, but I don't know.
Well, the thing with Deadpool is he's snarky. He's supposed to be the comic relief of all of the Marvel characters. He's I mean,
I think he would do better in a movie with more superheroes in it. I think
well, then eventually that's going to come though.
I think
he is in the
funnier,
comic books. At least with the X-Men, I think he's in the comic books. I think there is a comic book where he kills like pretty much every single superhero. And you know, and I think that it was like DC Universe or something. Like he even kills Spider-Man. He kills Superman or something like that.
no, he kills everyone, and he also kills God in that universe. I remember that one.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is now, like kids are like, oh, who do you want to be when you grow up? I don't want to be Superman anymore. I want to be Deadpool.
Yeah.
People now want to be
It's funny
Deadpool.
because they can't go watch that movie because it's rated R, but I'm sure
They
they.
did, though. They did. In some places, there are laws that will allow you, if you have parental permission, to go view a rated R movie.
Yeah.
I have that ability in Vermont, I believe.
Yeah.
If my parents
Yeah,
allow me to,
like
I can
there
watch
was
it.
Usually it's
I was 13 though.
your
There's an example on social media of a dad who took his 7-year-old son to see it, and he was like, "Dude, they told me it wasn't for kids, but I didn't realize how not for kids it was."
Yeah,
He
of
needs to learn
course.
this. He needs to learn the life.
People just don't get it. Anyway, now that you're
The
here,
example of a real man.
I can move on to the next
You go ahead.
story that I got here, and this is um, local for Georgia anyway.
Local, yokel.
So, Georgia passes campus carry bill to legalize guns on campus, college campuses. Sorry.
Except for the dorm.
Yeah,
Not carry one in the dorm.
except for dorms, for fraternities, sororities,
Basically,
and
anywhere that's student housing.
and athletic events, which is
Mass gathering.
which is where that stuff kind of most likely might happen.
So like, wait though.
But it's never happened in any of those locations.
Well, the dorm stuff was kind of like kind of didn't make sense to me because I believe people should be able to protect themselves because I know girls and stuff get raped like in dorms and stuff. I mean, it's nothing new. It happens quite often, actually.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
you're likely going to shoot someone because they try to rob you and try to rape you.
Yeah, but like
You
at the
could
same
easily sooner have
time.
the gun turned on you, and then you're powerless at that point. So that's
Yeah.
there's arguments to that whether or not everyone should be armed in a dorm.
Oh, my thing is I think when you own a gun and you're in a position where you need to use it, that's one thing. But there's also like when you own a gun and everyone else owns a gun, it kind of it hints to like a situation in which either your gun's going to be used on you or
Somebody
you're
else is going to use their gun on you, and then it just gets crazy from there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I love that South Park episode when they're like everybody gets guns
Mhm.
and they're trying to figure out the ads thing and it's like those were so brilliant episodes and PC Principle and all that shit.
Mhm.
But everybody had
Mars been
guns.
hitting heavy
It was
against
like
that
it
PC.
solved all of their problems, right? Like they were all having these huge arguments with the guns and no one shot anybody. But then like they were like, "Oh, we know what to do now. Man, these things are great."
Yeah, because the argument is that like if everybody's armed, then everybody knows everybody's armed, and then so there's less of a chance that somebody's gonna be dumb enough to take out their gun and try to shoot someone.
But I don't think that's the case, honestly. I think that there will be people dumb enough to do that.
Exactly, because people are
And
dumb.
People are stupid. There's nothing new.
Not majority of people. Like I said, majority of people are decent, honest people who just kind of get
if it
stuck
was
in that systematic loop that their previous parents got stuck in. And and if they become aware of it, they usually try to move on and try to better the situation. But most
but
kind of are willfully ignorant.
if it was though, like if it was the majority, we wouldn't have made it this far. It's always been like a small fraction of the population, very small, that's willing to go out and do crazy shit like that. It's just assault weapons have made them far more fucking efficient at it.
I actually see people like in my Kroger open carrying, and I don't necessarily have a problem. The problem I have is with these holsters that don't have that are just open holsters, like they're like half holsters. They like the trigger and the trigger and the grasp of the handle of the gun is still visible. And it's
Don't
like
you love
if
when
anybody wanted to walk up to you and snatch that son of a bitch away,
The
they'd
thing,
have no problem.
yeah. The thing is, man, I'm
It
getting
doesn't
a
seem safe to
really
me.
bad echo. I think it's coming from you, Kenny. I think so. I don't know. Anyway, hello? Okay, I don't hear it anymore. Oh, there
do
it
you hear
goes.
it now? It's coming from me.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me change my microphone setting. It's probably not on the right one.
But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and say what I was gonna say was the thing is, a lot of people down here in the South, especially in the South, like Texas and you know the southern states, like
Southern Belt.
a lot of their mentality with guns is almost like the I don't want to say necessarily like the Wild West, but it's kind of like that where it's like I have to have my gun, and because if somebody crosses me, I'm just gonna kill them. And
The thing is, like, even the Wild West wasn't the Wild West. I mean, despite how it's depicted in the movies, it actually didn't have that much of an impressive kill rate.
no,
You know,
uh, pretty much the only people getting
violence in the city,
killed were
but violence in the
you know
city still
gangs.
matched, still outdid the violence in these small outgoing towns where people, yeah, may have walked around with a sidearm, but there was generally a rule pretty much in every business or every establishment that you had to remove your firearm from your waist before you entered. Sheriffs knew exactly who was in town. They certainly knew who was armed,
Well, most
and they
people
had
who
the
were
authority to
armed,
take your weapon.
most people were armed back in the day like that. Were armed for protection from wildlife.
Basically, I mean, yeah, and technically at the time Indians. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Wild West wasn't even technically the Wild West. It's one of these type of things that we latch onto and we're nostalgic, but it's entirely based upon
Yeah,
uh,
Myth.
that's what I'm
a
talking about. Like
fictionary
that
creation.
that dream of just being
That idea
that idea is so
inculcated
ingrained in
culture.
the South that that's just what they feel like they have a right to. You know?
And honestly, I feel like people should have a right to it, but like when some idiot is walking around Kroger or some other place with a fucking AR-15 strapped to his back or some shit, you know, it's just draping on his back on a strap.
Yeah.
Really.
You know, and I mean that is I've never been necessarily surprised or bothered by the sight of somebody carrying a gun. It's not really bothered me. And I guess generally yes because I profile in some ways I guess, but generally because the fact that they're generally in the holster, they're obviously carrying it for a reason. They're making a statement, and it's they're not obviously gonna whip it out and start killing everyone. They wouldn't have made it to the door without hurting anyone, basically.
Yeah. No, I understand that situation.
If they're dressed in full fatigues and the guns out and their hands on the handle, obviously they're probably not somebody who I'm not gonna look at more than 5 times. You
Yeah.
know,
Dude, but
I'm
like
gonna.
when I
But
used to work as a cashier at IGA, right, and I would work like to the close, like at midnight, you get some weird people, man.
oh, certainly,
And
I
you
work at
you would get
Kroger.
a
Yeah.
line because you're like the only line open, right? And there's a guy carrying just obvious freaking large pistol and wearing exactly what you say, fatigues. And he's got on like a super I'm pro gun shirt, and he's kind of visibly looks like he's been smoking meth, and you can tell everyone else in the line is like immediately put on edge.
Well, I mean, I would be put on edge too. Again, it's that type of thing
I
where
mean,
there's
but
like you look at
do
somebody
we
and you
live
can
in a
tell if you
society
smoke meth.
where
If you smoke meth, and that's to the point where you wear a program T-shirt, you walk around in fatigues, and you carry a big ass pistol on your side, your ass is gonna show some effects. Okay.
yeah, my thing is do we live in a society where people have the right not to be put on edge like that?
No, of course you can be
Um,
put on edge, but I mean, I guess what I'm just
yeah,
saying is like as long as people are safe with the weapons they carry around, like people with the AR straps on their backs, I've never seen any issue with it. When I see an issue with it when people are unsafe, it's like it's when especially when they have a loaded magazine attached to it, and it's and the clip is inside. Okay, and
I look at it a
the
little
only thing
differently.
protecting of firing is a system of safety that which in some guns has been seen to be defaulted.
See, here's what I say though. I see it a little differently, and it's for the same reason that I look at religious people a little differently. And it's not all religious people. It's the conservative right wing
Yeah.
religious folk, and it's the same people who are conservative right wing to the extreme, who are all pro gun and have like guns to the fucking hip. That to me it seems like if shit goes down, they're gonna be killing folk they don't like.
Yeah, that just seems like
Oh, certainly.
yeah. Like
I mean, and the thing is, like, I think a lot of it, but I also think quite a bit of them don't really realize what it takes to kill. I mean,
I think a lot of them don't care.
Well, I don't think they don't care, but up to the moment where they actually have to pull the trigger, I think there's going to be some hesitation because, I mean, I've seen a story where a hunter, basically took out his pistol and he was going to shoot and there's a raccoon in his trash can. Okay, and he could not kill the creature. He pointed a gun, and he couldn't pull the trigger. Now this guy is a hunter. He's killed animals.
Yeah.
He's killed animals before, but he could not kill this injured, helpless animal. Okay, so I think people don't really necessarily understand what it's like to kill.
No, I get that. I get what you're saying, right? But I'm not talking about the average person. Like I just said, I'm not talking about all religious people or even all conservative people. I'm talking about the ones that are that extreme already in the mindset.
Yeah.
Sure, there'll be some hesitation among some of them, but among like a good bit of those, and even they would still be a minority, but that's all it takes. A good bit of those people would have no problem at all. No scruples about it. They'd just be like, "Oh, you're one of them there."
Now, guns don't generally bother any of us as far as like people's ability to own them, right?
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about the increase in the amount of people in militias in the United States?
See,
Or the
that's what
amount
I'm
of
talking
said
about.
militias?
But I don't consider them to be valid militias because they don't meet all of the
Well,
criteria
are
to
they
be a
like you
militia.
said? Like they're part of like they have the fringe part of society. Is the increase in militias a dangerous sign?
Yes.
Yes and no for me because have you seen some of these guys in these so-called militias? They're like these older guys trying to train these younger guys.
It don't matter.
Yeah, and which
Dude,
they have
you
like
know the
no
footage we have of
real
ISIS training?
idea what's going on.
But these
The footage we have
these
of
same
ISIS
people have
training.
pulled off successful things like abortion bombings,
Yeah,
clinic
but
bombings,
that's
and
exactly my point. Is like, have you seen ISIS? Their training footage. It's literally them kind of doing some basic karate and being on fucking monkey bars.
have you guys seen like a Navy SEALs breakdown of the Islamic training videos? Have you guys seen that video on YouTube?
No, no.
Okay.
Although that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But no, the idea of this is that regardless of whether or not they're well trained, a 2-year-old can still pull a trigger on some guns and kill their mother in a public shopping area, which has happened more than once in our country.
Oh, that's another thing I was going to talk about was. Did you hear about the
Pro gun girl who got shot by her kid?
yeah by her
Yeah. Poor guy. I feel for the kid because
Yeah.
obviously he didn't know what he was doing.
I feel for the kid way more than I feel for the mom, and I'm
Well, I
not
feel
gonna
for the mom
apologize.
too because I mean she's probably
It was
I
like
mean,
a
she
it
has
was like
a
a
pro she has a pro her Facebook page or pro gun page, but I don't see any. I mean I don't really see anyone for her and her son. So I mean if she's a single mother, that could hurt her ability to provide funding for her son, especially considering the state she may be in.
Well, I would question the validity of her keeping her son if her son's able to shoot her with a pistol. It's not.
I mean
Yeah, I mean the state may confiscate her, and they did say that they're looking for charges, but sometimes states don't necessarily have laws where they can charge
Child
negligent.
endangerment. That
Well,
would be
child endangerment is one of them, but that's not necessarily I think it's something that's going to put you away from jail for 5 years, and even some
no, but it'll
parents,
get your kids taken away.
yeah.
but not permanently.
Maybe not, but you'll have to go through a lot of hurdles. I mean, a lot.
Yeah. And then she gets shot with like a 45 caliber.
Oh yeah, in the back.
I'm like, God damn, how are you alive? That's
Well,
Yeah.
I mean the back.
That's-
I mean, it could be anywhere in the back. It could be like
yeah.
she
I
got
mean,
shot
I
in the
guess
back and
if
put
it
her
was like a
underneath her
clean shot and it went through, then
Yeah.
I guess it'd be fine. But
But damn, it's just like it speaks volumes because it's something that you would expect to see. Like, let's say we go back 10 years ago, right? And we say, okay, we're reading an Onion article from The Onion, which is a satire page. Everybody knows it's satire.
Yeah.
That
Well,
would
some
be
people
like
do.
a story you would expect to see on The Onion.
Certainly, yeah.
yeah.
But it's real.
But it's real. Yeah, that's true. All right, let's keep rolling here. Let me see what I got.
Oh, did you see that? Do you guys see that uh Neil deGrasse Tyson apparently mentioned something. He said that if sex was painful in animals, they would have died out long ago. Basically, I mean, it's not a direct quote, but that's basically what he said. And did you hear that he was actually schooled on something by other scientists?
Actually, he would be wrong there because
That's
a
what I'm saying.
lot.
Like he was schooled because he was wrong.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, and I'm sure he'll accept being wrong like a good scientist.
Yeah.
People are saying like this is the type of thing where this is like the evidence where like you have one person who is really influential in science and they
In a
say something that's
particular
completely
area of
wrong,
science.
and then you have people who follow them blindly.
No, for the most part, sex in animals is not necessarily painless, nor is it fun for both parties, nor is it
Except
consensual
chimps.
for both parties.
Yeah.
Chimps have like multiple partners. Females have like 50, 75 partners. I mean,
Well, yeah, but it's not just in those
yeah.
kind of roles. It's also like a lot of creatures, like the only way copulation happens is if a male rapes a female. You would call it rape in any other sense, except for the fact that they're not human.
Right, and they can't say
Uh,
no. They don't understand it. It's part of
yeah,
nature. Yeah.
yeah. But then you also got examples like on the other side of gender boundaries where, you have an octopus that'll do it with another octopus and it gets that arm ripped off, and that particular arm on the male is the penis, and it goes and dies.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's also a lot of sex that happens in creatures where basically the female kills the male.
Well, it's just sex kills them biologically.
Sex kills.
Yeah,
I
for
mean, for
some
like
creatures.
The Black Widow
Yeah.
basically will eat the head off of the male that impregnates him.
Or praying mantises the same way. But that's just how it is. Like, and really, my Neil deGrasse Tyson should have known that. He should have. Like, if I knew that, he should have known that. But I mean, it
That's,
just goes to show he's an expert in astrophysics, and he's layman expertise in when it comes to the biological stuff. But he's able to present it well enough that he can put it in Cosmos.
oh yeah, like
He
he's
just
very
wasn't. He
good.
wasn't so adept that he knew about the sexual habits of creatures.
But let's not imagine that he also didn't have writers for Cosmos,
Yeah.
because he can be very, he can be very drowning sometimes. I've seen it way he when he talks to people, he can go on and on and on.
Sometimes he can drone on, but sometimes he hits the nail on the head. Just
Oh yeah, yeah, certainly, certainly.
like when he's on Bill Maher and stuff, arguing with other people, he's just like spot on.
Yeah.
But that's Neil deGrasse Tyson. Everybody's capable of being wrong. The faster we realize that, the faster.
I mean, we're human. We're gonna be wrong eventually.
And that's important.
Yeah.
No matter what you know, you'll be wrong about it somewhere, and that's important. Otherwise, you'd never know any better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to talk about this other thing here. Do you watch Pawn Stars?
Inuyasha. Oh wait, Pawn Stars.
Pawn Stars.
No, but I heard about that guy getting in trouble.
Lee.
Yeah, he got arrested in Las Vegas for guns and drugs.
And
Well, the thing is, the funny thing,
But the thing is, it seems to me that he was like somebody like was mad at him for something, because like the story is kind of weird, because the police were called for apparently a sexual assault, which was not the case. And they showed up at his place, I believe, or wherever he was, and then he got arrested with, it says, marijuana, meth, and at least one weapon.
Oh yeah, the dude was loaded with pretty much anything. I mean, he had guns, he had drugs, he had everything. But I mean,
why does this surprise anybody? They're essentially like it's pawn people, right?
Well, it's not necessarily as pawn people, but he went from being a nobody. I mean, if you look at him in the beginning, you could definitely tell he didn't have the highest self-confidence in the world.
Dude, no, I'm saying as a person who's dealt with pawn people a lot in my life, like, I don't like pawn people.
Yeah, but Chun Li's not really a pawn.
You kind of have to screw people for a living.
He was more like a character. And,
he was a character, but I mean, like he can tell that when he was starting out, everything like that, he was kind of reserved because he wasn't necessarily sure of himself. He got fame, and like a lot of people, he couldn't handle the fame, he couldn't handle the riches, he couldn't handle that type of lifestyle, and he kind of so he took way too much consideration in some of the worst parts of that lifestyle, which is the harsher drugs,
Yeah,
weapons.
that's exactly what I was going to say, is because people who deal in the pawn industry deal with people who are pretty much using money to go get drugs anyways.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that happened.
Not all of them, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, no, no.
If anything, it just gives him street cred and makes him cooler.
Street cred.
He's going to become a rapper now.
No, I think he's going to be more popular now, either infamously or just from the
Chum
show.
Lee OG.
Chum Lee, the OG, has a criminal record
The
now.
funny thing is like he didn't necessarily have that much of an important part in the show, so they're easily going to be able to move on without him.
He's actually a really, really big part of the show. He's like the comedic relief of the show.
Sometimes, but you also have the grandfather. They can easily get another person. The only connection he really has to the show is the fact that
I think he's
He was
gonna.
best
making money off
friends
his money,
of
though,
the
is really
father
what
and
he
the
was
son.
doing. Because, like, okay, is he a pothead or a meth head? Because here's the question. I know people can do both, but most people know that that's so bad for them that they should never attempt it because it's an
Yeah.
upper and a downer.
Mm.
But maybe I'm assuming too much.
It also fucks up your skin.
Um,
I think you're right, Dozman. I think you're right. I think the especially if you look in places like Colorado, there was a decrease in the amount of prescription drugs taken once the law was passed. You could smoke weed legally. I mean, and there was definitely an increase in the amount of people who were smoking weed. Um,
Well, I would say
but
that's because weed has this special way of kind of creating the sense of greater potency in other things that you do.
Right. I mean, it can make you can kind of if people have taken it. They take weed and they go see art. They go to an art gallery, and they stare at paintings all day. And they have what they take with them, like they take a half like they take the weed oil with them, and they take a few drops in the bathroom, and they go back out and they view art. All they do is just go out inside and view art all day. And you have people who visit museums and stuff like that. So I mean, you have
You also have
yeah.
people who go and drop acid and go and stare at art all day too.
Yeah, but I mean, but these are
Both of
mind
which I
altering.
think should be
These are
totally
mind
legal.
altering agents, which aren't necessarily overall addictive.
Hmm.
As far as I know, I mean, is acid really addictive?
No,
No, I
no,
mean,
there's like a negative rate for it because the more you use it, the less it works.
right. I mean, even like mushrooms, which would be like
Mushrooms,
the
you could,
most natural thing next to acid.
yeah, you're not going to develop a physical dependency. You could develop a psychological dependency, but that's true of anything.
Well,
Like
yeah, I
you
mean,
could
if you
develop
get
a
one special
psychological
feeling,
dependency for Fallout.
yeah, gaming, the increased adrenaline you get from gaming,
the devil's
because they
drug.
become addictive.
It's the devil.
No, like the point in it is like, yeah, what I meant by potency is like if you smoke weed and then you like drink, it increases the potency of the alcohol, or at least the feeling of the potent of what you're doing.
Yeah,
Like
I
if
mean,
you go and you trip balls on a hallucinogen and then you smoke weed whenever you're peaking, it increases the potency. If you go and if you take pain medication and you smoke weed, it increases the potency. At least the feeling of it, anyways.
Yeah.
but I
How
mean,
effective.
if you're lucky enough to be in an area where you have weed shops, that are legal weed shops, even medical weed shops, but legal weed shops, you can literally get kinds of different kinds of psychological high differences because
Yeah,
they have such varieties. I mean, not only that, but you can get one specifically for your need, whether it be insomnia, hunger,
yeah, but like,
energy. Oddly enough,
yeah,
energy.
I understand that, but like, what they're just simply experimenting with. Okay, like this is how it works, right? You've got your Mexicanus weed, right? And
Yeah.
then you've got I think it was initially a Russian plant called a ruderalensis plant, which is like weed. Well, they hybridized those two, and that's where we get the main strains of sativa and indica. They're both ruderalensis base, but Sativa is high energy weed, which means it makes you have a head high, and indica is like low energy weed or like fucking sleepy weed, and it's a body feeling.
And usually, if you smoke enough of that, you pretty much fall asleep.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, yeah, like I mean,
Then you've got hybrids
sometimes.
that have characteristics of both, and then you've got these special hybrids like with the sex weed and stuff like that.
Cool.
Well, now, well, speaking of, like, what do you think? What do you guys think of the argument of this the weed candy? The fact that like they're trying to draw youth to the weed candy because they're making it look like regular
Uh,
things like sour drops and everything like that.
I'm just gonna say fuck it on this one and say let kids eat weed candy.
I'm
No,
sure.
Like,
I'm sure
come
it'll
to
calm them
class,
down
high
for
as fuck,
sure.
imagine how much more kids would learn at school.
I
They would
think.
certainly be
I
they would certainly
mean,
be paying attention or at least looking bored.
well, I think. I don't think kids should take or
Obviously
smoke
not. I mean,
weed until.
We're
I
judging.
think at
there
least
has been
until
some studies
they're
showing that
teenagers, like at least 12 or 13.
No, like really, you shouldn't smoke weed until after you're 8. Really, after you're 18.
after
Because,
you graduate high school.
yeah, because there's studies that have shown that if you smoke it like during the developmental days of your brain, it fucks with the formation of your corpus callosum.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, but that's not a really big deal. I mean, it's
Just like
not.
you shouldn't do anything else. Just like you shouldn't introduce any other type of
Like people shouldn't have
carcinogen into
caffeine.
a developing body because the developing body is literally taking pretty much is absorbing everything from your environment in order to build itself, whether it be an immune system, your nervous system, your reaction to pain, your reaction to emotion, your whether it be or your favorite food. So I mean, like you don't necessarily want to introduce anything that affects any of those things from normal operation.
And the trouble is we don't know exactly what affects everything.
Exactly. Even
And
food
we also
wise.
can't discount that there are certain things that might, what cause what we consider to be an improvement in function. Like let's say they develop a special cannabinoid oil. Now I'm not in favor of all of this ridiculous panacea for weed thing where people claim that weed can cure literally everything. I think that's dumb and moronic.
Yeah, it can't
But
cure cancer.
I think that it can inhibit the growth of certain tumor cells. It has been shown to
Certainly.
do that. And I think it definitely helps people with epilepsy and children who can take non-active oils to help with their epilepsy. It definitely works for that. I know it helps with Crohn's disease and other autoimmune deficiency based stuff. So in the cases where people have shit like that, by all means, let them take it, even if they're a kid.
Yeah, like that's a good thing. Like even Georgia, despite like we've had podcasts in the last couple of podcasts where we've discussed legislation passed forward by Georgia, and it's not necessarily been the best legislation.
No,
But
because
they at
Georgia's
least
always been a great place to talk about stupid legislation.
we've had plenty of examples.
Yeah.
But at least Georgia has passed a law where they say that they're going to start they're going to start allowing research into the effects of kids with epilepsy taking MCT oil, I think it's called, and they're going to allow like base trials, and if it's successful, they will allow a medical market, but you can't smoke it. There's nothing smokable. It's only the oil for the kids. That's the only thing that they're going to allow. But it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
You can
At
smoke
least.
the oil though.
Huh?
You can smoke the oil. It's pretty simple. Just put it in an e-cig pen.
But it only has like 0.05%.
Yeah, but it would still get the job
THC.
done if you wanted to make that a delivery system.
Yeah. It's enough to affect the seizures, not enough to get the kid high.
No, but like it still has all
Or he
the
destroys an
components that
entire
would be
Pop-Tart
active.
box.
No, it has all the stuff that would be active. The only difference is it's not activated.
Right.
Active THC oil, the only difference is it's gone through a heat treatment and it activates the THC oil to where it does get you,
Stoned is.
So once you atomize it and you send it through that cartomizing system, and it's heated up, it's been activated.
I have
All
another
right.
question. I'm sorry. Can I ask this
Oh,
one question?
I was just gonna try to move on ahead.
Okay, can I ask one question though?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Let's say, okay, would you allow if you were like let's say a Star Trek, yeah, or Star Trek related. Okay, humans have developed space travel. They're developing in group. They developed this ability to travel beyond our system at fast enough speeds. It's not like Star Trek, but it's Star Trek in light because we have training programs that basically send trained officers to go in space to explore, etc., etc. They live on the ship for years and everything like that. Do you think that they would allow, or should they allow, people on a ship to smoke weed
Yeah.
Or to be intoxicated?
or to be
Yes, I
intoxicated?
do. But
Um,
just not
Because you
during
know,
their
in
shift
Star Trek
hours,
they had synthethol, which would taste like alcohol, but it wouldn't get you drunk.
which seems so pointless.
yeah.
I know. That's what they
But no,
referenced
like
it.
here's my point. Yes, you should be able to do that, just not during your shift hours. Like I think that if to effectively run a ship, you would need more than one captain.
Oh, that's why you technically have a first officer, but they technically have the same hours.
Yeah, I'm saying there should be a night shift on the Enterprise. They made that joke in Robot Chicken, but I think it was a valid point.
In
Um,
Voyager they had one, but they did by ensign. An
well, my point
ensign
is
ran it.
in your off hours, you should be able to get intoxicated, but as advanced as all that is, I think they would be able to come up with a component that would instantly sober you, should you need to sober.
Black coffee. I heard that anything caffeinated will kill a weed buzz.
Well, anything stimulant. Wait, will kill a weed buzz?
Yeah, it
No.
basically it takes off the effects of anything caffeinated.
No,
If you
dude.
drink coffee, it will
Why do you think
eliminate the effects of the weed.
there's coffee houses in Amsterdam where they got weed? It's not because no, that's not how it works with weed. It doesn't kill the buzz, it intensifies it because now you've got an
Intensify.
energy source. Now with alcohol, you see, alcohol is a different kind of it's a technically a depressant.
Yeah.
So whenever you drink caffeine or things like that, it peps you up out of that. For instance, though, it'll do that with any stimulant. So if you're drinking alcohol and then all of a sudden you take Adderall or someone snorts Coke or any other stimulant like that, a lot of times they describe this effect of being instantly sober, despite the fact that they've still got alcohol in their system.
hmm Also, when you smoke weed and if you've been drinking a lot, it counteracts the what's it called? The thing that makes
Buzz.
Nausea.
the nausea from the alcohol. And
Listen, if
like,
you drink
yeah,
tons of it, I mean, I don't understand that. It's kind of
yeah.
something that I've seen common in our generation, where people drink until they pass out, get sick, or they can't remember,
Yeah.
and
So dumb.
It
it's seen
is.
as an okay thing
Yeah.
now.
I
It's
did
seen
that
as like,
one time, and I
oh,
was
okay,
like,
well, it
nope, no,
happens.
fuck that. I'm not getting this drunk
What
again.
I just think one of the things I never understood about society, right? One of the things that is legal is probably the most dangerous of things. Like, dude, someone fucked up on alcohol, in a lot of ways, if they're really fucked up on alcohol, is more fucked up than anything else they could be on, short of possibly a 5-minute DMT trip.
Yeah, and like also alcoholism like changes people and makes them do shit that it just destroys lives and families and it's just the worst. And I don't know. I mean, I guess they tried to get rid of it at one point, but you know how that turned out.
Well, they
No, I think
prohibited it, but the fact is, like alcohol is in some ways healthy. Like you have
Oh,
alcohol and
yeah.
Wine can get you fucked up. Wine can get you
well, my point
well
is
to
even
shit.
if it was
But
completely
wine is
unhealthy,
actually a healthy drink.
well, you should still be able to do it. It's just people need to have better education concerning alcohol. And I think that's why I make the argument that the age of drinking should be lower, not higher, because the longer you ban people outright from being able to do something, the more they're going to do it when they eventually get the ability to do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like that's the funny thing. I that was a topic for the high school graduation. Well, at least my topic for the high school graduation writing test. You know, that writing test you have to complete. Um, and I made the argument that the reason why the drinking age should be lowered wasn't that of any learning how to be affected by it better, because I hadn't had any experience with alcohol, but it was because the fact that soldiers, if they're 18 years old and ready to die for the country, should be able to have a beer with their father before
Yeah,
they go.
and in plenty of states that would be perfectly legal, and it's kind of a false argument because, like, for instance, Texas, Tennessee, I think even Georgia are places where, if you're a parent of a child and you have alcohol in your home, you can legally give them alcohol like from age 14 or 16, depending
Yeah, it
on the
varies by
state.
state, but yeah, I don't know about Georgia either, but I know that definitely Louisiana. I think there's one state that like as soon as you're 15,
But here's
you
my
can start.
thing: is even if it's not on the books as a law that you can do it, dude, you can. I mean,
In closed doors, you
abroad.
can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my point. Is kids are still drinking anyways. The only difference is because it's taboo, they're more likely to sneak around and actually get hurt doing it.
Yeah.
And that was always thing like that was always thing for the anti-weed argument. It was it now instead of turning to the economic argument like oh it's going to cost government a whole lot more and everything like that, and it's been shown not to do that. Colorado actually got paid back taxes that they paid in because they well back to the citizens, not back to the businesses, because they received so much tax revenue from marijuana businesses. Um,
Which I bet
they
was
so
pretty
they so
awesome.
they can't really use they can't they actually the government had to
Dude,
give back people taxes.
I wonder
dude,
what they
you know what
used
I
it
would have
for.
done with it? Yeah, I would
Huh?
have used the.
It was like
I
70
think
million in tax money back to Colorado citizens.
I think Chris said the same thing though. Basically, or maybe he said it, but I was gonna say like in that tax return, I would have used the money that I got back from the weed tax to go buy
to
some weed.
buy some more
Basically, I know, right?
weed.
And I think that the article hinted at like that was like what majority of people did was when they took the money and they went back and bought more weed, but but like obviously the Colorado governor who was initially against the legalization of weed has now turned positive against legalization of weed because he said that his position basically was that he didn't see the benefit in it, but he can be proven wrong, and that if he's wrong, then he'll change his position, and he stuck to it.
Well, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
The
But go ahead.
There's an underlying point though that is if he okay like I've always been in favor of whenever it comes to the weed topic, not arguing that it should be legal from a medical perspective. I really hate when people do that. I'm just like, I don't care what it does medically. It could be awesome medically, but I really don't care.
Right.
Right? Like, we should have the right to do it because we demand that right, and because it doesn't violate anyone else's consent in the process.
Yeah, and like the same right that people have to go to church and practice their religion.
Well, now that's different. That's different because one is a constitutional right. You have the right to go to church. The other one is going based off, like Justin said, it doesn't interfere with anybody else, right? But
Yeah, but
technically, but you have in
technically you have a
Colorado some
constitutional right to
areas.
drink,
Well, no, well, yeah, I guess
if
you
you
do.
want to include the
Um,
amendment.
but you have places in Colorado. You have towns and municipalities that have basically rejected the free weed notion. They don't allow weed. Now
Yeah.
you're saying it should be an absolute right, which means that even if you live in that county, you should have the right to smoke weed, right?
I'm saying
So would
yes.
that violate then somebody else's wishes, somebody
No.
else's rights to live in
No,
an
because
area where you need to live in an area that doesn't sell weed, that doesn't have weed, that doesn't
okay,
celebrate weed?
but then that would be the same argument as saying that you could live in an area where some like there are dry counties where you can't go and buy alcohol, but you can't say that no one can drink within that county.
No, they just drive like 15
Yeah.
miles to the
Yeah,
next
and they buy
county
the
and then
alcohol there, and then they come back. And if anything, all that does to that county is hurt it economically. So,
Well, but often that's also for religious reasons or
yeah, like
like
Utah.
yeah, like or medical reasons because of the fact that Aboriginals, some of the original settlers, of North America and everything like that,
Heavily
Canada,
developed alcoholic issues.
have a specific gene in their system which which allows them, allows them, but kind of demands alcohol once it gets a bit of it.
Hmm.
It's called the alcohol gene, but that's not technically exactly what it is.
They have a much more aptitude to become dependent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So So you basically you have you do so you're so you don't see that you don't see a problem. You think that people, even if they're in those dry counties, should technically be able to smoke weed, even
Yeah.
against the wishes of the majority of the citizens that voted that
Yes.
that be a weed
Yeah.
county.
Here's my point, though, is when I say it doesn't violate the consent of those other citizens, I mean their personal boundaries are not violated in any way. It's
So
the same thing with like gay marriage or something like that. That
could they
does not
pass a law
affect
then saying that you
anyone.
can't smoke outside your house?
No, you couldn't. It would be like passing a law. Let's relate it to again gay marriage in this instance. It's like you can't show any affection to your same-sex partner outside of your house whatsoever. How that it's ridiculous. Now people in that crowd might admonish me for saying, "Oh, how can you compare these two issues?" But fundamentally, it's people are demanding that they have this right, and it's in this case equal rights in the case of gay marriage and stuff. And now they do have this right, but then you have a bunch of counties that are trying to make stipulations to make it harder. So in the case for weed, if a county wanted to say we're dry, we're not going to sell it, you can't make ordinances saying, oh, you can't smoke it here, when neither the state municipalities nor the federal municipalities are going to come against the people in that case. I mean, at that point, it becomes puritanical, and you can have little gated communities where they have housing authority rules and stuff like that. But
Those
you
do
already have
exist
that
though.
So, but it's just, yeah, it should be a fundamental right. And the reason I said alcohol is a fundamental right is it's not fundamental and it's not on the first 10, stipulations of the Bill of Rights where you have, everything from free speech to states' rights on there. But
Right.
it is in the Constitution, and what amendment was it in particular where we reversed prohibition? But it's an amendment nonetheless to the Constitution that says that this right is available.
Yep.
So the same thing will happen once weed and other drugs like that are legalized on a federal level. It will be a stipulation on the Constitution, because the current prohibition against drugs like that is a stipulation on the Constitution.
How long until you think that the majority of the United States accepts weed, or at least the federal government legalizes it?
The next 10 years.
Next 10 years?
Yep.
Again, only about 3 to 4 states allow legal weed. So
Yeah, but you're talking about like you could go on polls here and say that the overwhelming majority, like 74% of people in the United States, are either okay or want weed legalized.
but it hasn't won in every single area. Even technically California, which is considered
I know,
positive
but
weed, the bills were passed, but then they were rejected.
but you also have to understand how quickly it's moved for the states that it has come about in. And if there's any one driving force of states' rights and the equalization of states' rights, it's people moving out of one area to go to another area where they have that right.
Yeah, it's
So
almost like
when people start leaving these areas, those areas will eventually follow suit so that they can get people back in their area.
it's
Yeah,
almost like
business.
a domino effect. Like eventually, they're gonna
And I
see
say
it,
10 years is a good window.
yeah. I don't know, but if it doesn't become legal by the time I'm like 35, then I might move somewhere where it is.
Canada. Well, technically, it's not actually legal in Canada either. And in places like, and there's actually, believe it or not, there's actually a UN treaty that the United States signed. It's like an international drug on wars. I mean, war on drugs. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it literally states that these individual companies cannot legalize weed.
Yeah, but all
It's
they'll have
against
to do to
international
reverse
law.
that,
That's
all,
why
all
Amsterdam.
we
Go ahead.
all we have to do to reverse that is ignore it.
Well, Amsterdam is ignoring it, but then again, the UN has the ability to pass sanctions against a country in order to punish it.
Yeah,
The
but
US included.
yeah,
That's
I
why the
get
US
that.
hasn't legalized weed in a lot of ways, is because it's actually against international law for it to do so.
Oh, I know. But here's my
Canada,
point: is as the world starts doing it more, it's not gonna matter. Like it may be an ordinance, it may be an international law passed by the UN, but essentially it's words on a piece of paper.
But then you could easily say that the nuclear treaty is also worse than paper.
Well, it
Like,
is.
you can't like it gets that argument of what can be what should be accepted as a treaty among nations and what can easily
But
be rejected based upon
the nuclear
favorability.
deal, even though it's written on paper, is about nuclear arms. So there's a little bit of a difference between nuclear arms and marijuana.
They're technically just pieces. They're just technically words on paper.
Yeah, they are, but
There's
one's
something that
about
these countries
nuclear.
have to follow. They have to reduce their
Yeah,
stock.
but one's about nuclear weapons and one's about marijuana. Not
Well,
everybody's going to get a hold of nuclear weapons. Most people can get a hold of marijuana, and when most people demand the right, ordinances and laws like that tend to go away. It's how common law evolves. And since we're going into this global era in which there's international law like this with the UN and treaties that countries sign with each other, those things too will adapt to common law.
And also, the internet has a big influence on it too.
Oh yeah, the internet's pretty much going to be the source of our rights in the future.
do you think that's why India has rejected Facebook's CEO's try to his goal to provide free internet?
Probably. To some degree, it's about control. Whenever people are able to go and find all the information they need to see how badly they're being screwed over by who or whoever, then it makes it difficult for them to continue to be exploited. And
But
when
now,
people
but
when people don't stand up to being exploited, they become a clear market for labor. Whenever they stand up to the exploitation, they become domineering citizens of their own right, and they actually build up their community instead of being exploited.
yeah, but technically, you could say that once they do that, they become invaluable to those industries that built them up, and those
Yeah,
industries will then lead to a
yeah.
country where they can get that stuff.
But guess what happens when they do that in those areas where those people have already built up enough through the domineering of those rights? They come up with their own industries.
But it takes time. It takes decades, and then in that time period, you have children that starve. You have families that can't get shelter. You have
Yep.
economic systems that sometimes turn into chaos, which equals war, or you have
But
terrorist
yeah,
groups
but
form, or something like that.
all you're saying there is that that's what happens anyways.
Well, it's not necessarily what happens anyways. I mean, you have differences. Like Sweden, for instance, um, is an economic powerhouse because technically it's in trade routes. It has its favorability, its ability to reach nations. It has a lot of money. It has loose regulations in the banking system. How valuable would that country be if they remove that banking regulation? That basically and then increase their banking regulations, increase the tariffs they did on international money transactions, or tracked it in some ways, or reversed their laws, was actually more willing to give the U.S. government and its investigative authorities like the what's it called, the SEC, that's EC.
Yeah,
Um,
here's what would
all
happen.
the trackings of all the bank transactions and all the savings accounts of all the rich
The
people in the
reason
world.
they're a powerhouse is not entirely due to that. It's more due to the fact that Sweden is the powerhouse in silicone industries, silicone marketing and electronics and stuff like that. That's where most of the chips are made. They're in Germany. So that's their. I mean, you can say the banking stuff is like that. Yeah, the banking stuff helps the people in the U.S. who want to put their money somewhere where it's not going to be able to be touched as easily. Yeah, that's big for them.
They also have the
And
biggest portion of wealthy people in their population to any country, to most countries in the world.
mhm. But however, in the long run, whenever you increase the regulation in the areas on banking like that, it provides one less haven for people to literally leech off of one economy and store it in another one where they can pretty much keep the sovereignty over a bunch of wealth that technically a lot of other people worked for.
Cool.
So you're
So
saying, you're saying that the wealth isn't shared.
yeah, no, I'm saying that if you're making this much money off of whatever you're doing, and you've got this many people working beneath you doing it, and yet you take the vast majority of that wealth away from even being able to be taxed or anything else like that, then you're definitely taking it away from the people who technically worked most for it. You've got like 40 million man hours under you, or whatever you want to call them, person hours. Um, you've got all these labor, these hours under you. And this is the total sum of work that's being done in your industry. Yet the amount of profit you're making from that work, not from your own work, but from that work technically, is being totally flushed away from these people and hidden in offshore accounts and Cayman Islands and all that other good crap. So you're depriving technically the wealth that they created, not wealth that you made.
Okay. Speaking of the Cayman Islands, I mean, like, what would their wealth look like if they weren't, and basically giving the ability of many industries, from banking to shipping, the ability to basically hide their wealth and their status and everything like that. Because
Who
what
knows?
happens is, like, you have large fleets of shipping container ships, where they fly under the Cayman, they fly on these different small island flags.
Yeah, but dude,
And
you
they
have
don't
to
have to go through
also
port
recognize that
authority.
the
They don't.
people in
Their
the
cargo isn't checked internationally. They're allowed to go into any waters they want.
yeah, but the people in the Cayman Islands themselves don't really see much of that wealth, do they?
Right. So I'm saying, like, but how long would it take for them to create their own industry to recreate the wealth that is present there? I mean, even though they don't directly benefit from it, there is slight economic activity to which they directly benefit.
Yeah, but
At
only
least,
so
at least provide
not
some
so
jobs.
much. Not so much more than what you would think. I think that there would still be viable economic activity available in the Cayman Islands if it weren't for the money market. It just wouldn't be focused on that market anymore. I mean, if anything, it would be focused on natural resources like fishing.
With the oceans depleted and supplies getting less, and countries like the U.S. Basically controlling the majority of the fishing waters, how is that necessarily going to be happen?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily control the waters around the Cayman Islands, though.
Well, no, but you have large shipping fleets. Basically, they come out of each country and they fish in technically international waters.
I mean, I guess the point is I don't have
But
an
they
adequate
also
solution for
get the
you.
majority of quotas.
I mean, I don't have an adequate solution for you, but it doesn't seem right that technically the money that's there is used to exploit the people that's there, and also that money that's there is there specifically so that people over here can be exploited too. And not just here, all throughout the world.
Right, but they create jobs that allow families to
Yeah,
see
they create
children.
jobs that can barely provide for people.
Barely provide, but they provide something. So, like,
Something.
how long does it
carrot on a
take?
stick,
It's something
man.
better than nothing, though. How long does it take for these people to build up their own industries that then provide that economic stimulus that then allow people to be dependent
It
upon those?
takes as long as it takes, but it's a necessary step. I can't give you an exact answer. It may take some areas, it may be really quick, and in other areas, it may take a little longer. I don't know, but I do know that it's a better alternative.
Well, you're saying
to the
natural
current
resources.
system.
So would weed do it? You were saying that if weed came to all the countries in the world, it would create opportunity.
If
Is that the
weed,
case with the Cayman Islands?
wait, are you saying if weed came to all corners of the earth?
Didn't you say that? Didn't you say if that every country should have the sovereign right to be able
Would,
to
would
do
the Cayman Islands benefit from weed? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, just as much as any other place would benefit from weed.
I
In the
think
Cayman
Would the
Islands,
market become overwhelmed though with the supply?
I think the world
Probably
will
not.
become a more mellowed out place, and everybody would eat a lot more.
Well, that's actually one thing that's interesting. I read a study recently that shows that people who smoke weed don't really have the munchies as bad as people think they do.
I mean, I don't
And-
know.
It doesn't necessarily always trigger it in every single person. Like every
Well, and
single,
also
like you
they
said,
showed that people who smoke weed tend to be 30% less overweight.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I mean,
you actually, and a lot of the times it's a lot of the times people don't necessarily want food, they want water, they want something to drink because they have
Mhm.
cotton mouth or something.
Yeah.
So
But my point is if you introduce weed into an area, it's going to create some sort of economic productivity. And I'm not saying that I have a cure-all solution, but I am saying that the only way we can work to a better environment for everyone is if we challenge these established notions of how the money works. But what people don't realize is you don't necessarily have to have a super viable economy in an area if everyone has the ability to actually live decently in that area. Let's say the Cayman Island invests what money it does have and the time it has into providing for its limited citizenship some pretty cool things like solar panels and other technology that would allow them to provide power and shelter to themselves. And, people were taught and education was brought up in the area. Sure, it would take time, but it's better than the current system where you've got people literally living over there off the scraps of the elite who walk through the street.
No, but you also have one other issue that will challenge that ability to grow. When you had that system that where like the upper class benefits more than the lower class, where
Hmm.
you have a system where where religion supports that, and despite the fact that the religion hurts the majority of the smaller people, the smaller people are still stuck to that religion. You
Yeah.
can't necessarily bring progress to those people well enough or fast
No,
enough.
but that's
So
what you
how would
can't
you get
bring
around that
progress to
well?
anybody.
Because I have that a lot of countries around the world, especially small third world, second world countries, islands, small nations,
I hate to
they're
sound Buddhist
religious.
here. I hate to sound Buddhist here, but you can't bring progress to anybody. Progress comes from within.
Yep.
But sometimes that can within can take quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and
Or
I'm not
like
saying it
the people
won't.
you want to benefit, the children, the newer generation, where you don't want them to necessarily be victim to the system.
Well,
How would you start at least start enforcing change in a place where religion would prevent you?
And that's
there's
something
the
that
thing. You have to, like, right now, I don't think we should be involved in the Middle East. I think the people of the Middle East can handle. I think the reasonable people in the Middle East far outnumber the ones who are going around blowing themselves up. It's just the ones going around blowing themselves up can do a lot more damage than the reasonable people who aren't going to blow themselves up to kill the people blowing people up. So it's that kind of crap. It's the same thing we deal with in our country. We may sound like we're all, just as industrialized as everywhere else, but you go to some of the backwater areas in this country, and you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between there and the Middle East if it weren't for the lack of sand and the lack of turbans or headdresses.
no. Anyway, it's been pretty interesting, but I want to keep moving. I want to go through one last topic here. Uh, the Donald Trump rallies have been getting shut down and a lot more people speaking up. It seems like after the Ohio thing that happened, it seems like more and more people have gotten the courage to go and protest against him.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, and it's happening a lot more and more now. It's been like 3 states now.
I'm not sure the
Yeah,
exact. I know I watched the video where the
I
one
think it's
happened in Chicago.
yeah,
What I found funny was
it
is
was
like if you watch that
Chicago,
video
Ohio,
where
and
the Secret Service rushed on the stage,
Hmm.
he's supposed to be this tough
and
guy. He's real tough. He's gonna fight everyone. He
and
literally
Kansas.
jumped into the arms of the security guard who grabbed him first. He literally almost jumped into the arms. This dude had a total flight or flight mishap. He froze. He panicked. He froze in mid stance, and once that guy touched him, you could tell that it was a complete relief. But this dude was in no way prepared, and it was just a protest. How is he going to react against a real threat?
Yeah.
This dude
If
froze
anything,
a
it makes him look a
protester.
lot weaker.
See,
People aren't pointing that out.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that really pointed out just yet. But
I have.
I saw that. I saw that. This dude panicked.
I
This
knew
dude
it from the
this dude
beginning.
fucking panicked. He almost jumped into the arms of the security guard that grabbed him first. He almost if the guy would have been like, "Come here, Donald
It's
Trump,
like
jump,
Shaggy,
jump," he would have.
Shaggy and Scooby Doo.
Yeah, basically.
Zoinks!
Yeah, zoinks. I mean, it would have been total zoinks, and it would have been like pedaling them feet, and they would have been out. Okay.
No, but the particular video we're talking about is the one in Chicago when there was like thousands of Bernie supporters who came into the Trump rally and started shouting Bernie, Bernie, and then they started shouting Trump back, and then all of a sudden it was like fucking madness broke out. And it was like mosh pits and fucking it was
Was it
glorious.
fighting?
Yeah, no, they lost control. The security couldn't even control it.
Yeah.
Damn.
No, I linked the video in the Hangout or in the.
Somebody's gonna get shot in one of those, and then everything is just gonna go.
I didn't see that.
Everything is gonna go crazy if that happens.
No, this I'm watching it right now too.
Just one guy waving up the air. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
We turn the camera around, panning around to the back of the arena. This is becoming violent. There's pushing and shoving going on inside this arena. People are
Here, and you'll see the Bernie sign here in a second.
Some protesters. We don't know if they're Trump supporters or protesters.
And then you'll see the Bernie sign. The guy's holding up there.
Moments ago, a very large crowd of supporters, protesters,
Hold on.
media,
There's another video.
walking back and forth.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Here it goes. Yeah.
Back over, you can see this large section of protesters I was referring to earlier. They're now shouting, "Bernie, Bernie," obviously in support of Bernie Sanders.
And here it comes. Someone threw something. Here it comes. Now hearing Trump. And the Trump people are moving forward.
The security does not have a handle on the situation here. It is totally.
Oh, there you go. It was thrown.
All right. All right. I think they may have cut off the end of this. I saw the original footage, and there was like,
Yeah, he's a weak person, and I knew it from the beginning when he first started, getting a lot of press and stuff about all that. Like, I was like, this guy he's a weak person that just like he puts up such a good front.
I found the raw video.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm sharing it with you guys.
Good.
Too bad we
But
can't
that
show
means
it on
Ted
the,
Cruz. That means Ted Cruz is the next option. Babyface Ted Cruz? Really? I don't want that dude president. I don't know if I want him over Trump, but I don't want him.
Okay. Like, there's one of these. Oh, here it is. I found it. There's one of them. There's a fight. Oh, goodness. That was a woman. She just knocked that guy for a loop.
I'm telling you, women of this age will fight a guy, no doubt. They still try to say, "You can't hit me, I'm a girl," but they don't care. They fight. They fight. And they punch. They don't slap no more. They punch.
I can't find the original video I saw last time. I can reference where I saw it. I saw it on the Drunken Peasants podcast. But no, literally, the both sides of the crowd start moving towards each other, and then it's like huge fucking chaos erupts. And
Oh no, I mean, I'm not surprised by that. Oddly enough, I think that humans kind of get a satisfaction against battling other humans, especially hand to hand, hand to hand. I think there's some sort of like a type of like primal masturbation to that.
Yeah, there is. But in this case, it was like it's people who. Okay, on the one side, there's Trump people who are already tend to be violent, and then on the other side, there's the Bernie people who come in, who I would probably be part of too. Like,
But our generation was violent, though. If you remember, our fighting, our school year, our fighting in middle school was so bad that they stopped giving in-school suspension, and they started saying that you will get arrested if you fight. And that's how bad we were in middle school and high school.
But the point I'm making is like
we're violent just as much as anyone else.
Yeah, it's just a battle of the ideologies. You've got on one hand, the Bernie supporters who are like, why are you guys here supporting this guy who has no sense whatsoever? Then you've got these people who are like, oh, these are the commies that we were told about, blah blah blah. So when it looked like one of the Trump people threw something at one of the Bernie supporters, and then all of a sudden it just erupted.
Yeah.
It
looked like a water bottle of some sort. Or a piece of paper or something.
But that shit happened. Once a line crosses, we're no better than chimps.
Yeah, once somebody throws something, I mean, it's pretty much in any culture. Once somebody throws something in a huge argument, whether like have you seen like those congresses overseas?
Yeah, I've seen those congresses, like in the Congo jungle, where you've got chimpanzees throwing poop at each other.
Oh yeah! Oh shit! They're throwing shit at each other.
Yeah, no. Congress is a term used to a Congress of chimps, or Congress of baboons. It talks about a pack. That's what we call them, Congresses.
Well, it makes sense of why we call our politicians that. But I mean,
yeah.
You know, I've seen chairs thrown, and once that chair was thrown, I mean, literally both sides just went at each other. I mean, before they were trying to go, they were trying to separate, they were trying to end it, but once that chair was thrown, it was over.
Yeah.
It was like watching a wrestling match,
Yeah.
like something you'd
Basically.
see at WWE or some, you know.
And that's pretty much all it was, really. Like it was just something that, in a way, it gives Trump more time being infamous or famous on TV.
Both.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, you know what's funny about it is you've seen the video of Trump at Raw whenever he slams, who's he slam, Vince McMahon or somebody?
I think it's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh yeah, but then like you see him at this rally and like you said he had a Scooby and Shaggy moment.
Yeah, fuck yeah, yeah, like
So
nobody's
that's how
business.
you can tell wrestling is definitely scripted.
Dude, no, video allegedly shows Donald Trump supporter yelling at protesters to go to Auschwitz.
Auschwitz, yeah,
Uh,
I've seen that.
yeah.
Like why go? I mean, there's a a memorial there and a museum and all that other good stuff. But going there now wouldn't do anything. It's not like Germany's still Nazi and they would be like, come to Auschwitz. We shall put you out of your misery.
No, but they are saying that the immigrant crisis is kind of creating some of the same rhetoric they had during
Oh
the
yeah,
Nazi
Yeah.
reasons. Like you have talks of German purity, you have talks of you have discriminatory of language against other religions and other
it doesn't
cultures.
surprise me.
You have German flags being flown everywhere. I mean,
You know what bothers me though is it seems like both sides of the issue work the wrong way. Like on the one hand, like in Germany, you have like all the Muslim people coming in and demanding the things that they're demanding, but that's the extreme right of the Muslims.
over a
And then you
million
have the
people.
extreme right of German people spouting the rhetoric they're spouting. But then you also have the left people that we would consider left in our country anyways, who are saying, "Hey guys, let's not discriminate against these people or anything like that." And for the most part, they're right, but they go too far in saying that you can't discriminate at all. You can't have your speech about these people either. I think that venting process, the fact that people do have the ability to go out and be assholes, stops a lot of the chaos that would ensue if they didn't have that ability.
Yeah, I mean, especially after the Paris attacks, those Paris attacks. Now you have even countries such as France, who technically kind of created democracy in some ways, who kind of created an inclusive environment where everybody's welcome. Who
They
kind of set
created the
our
idea of
principles of a
tolerance, so
melting
to
pot.
speak.
What?
I wouldn't say they created tolerance, but that's where it
Not
seems to
tolerance,
herald
but
from.
inclusiveness, where like they
Yeah.
wanted to accept diverse cultures and everything like that into their
Well, that
society.
requires tolerance.
Okay, well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
Yeah. But it's where you draw the line. Like the people on the far right in Germany who are like, no, we're not going to have Sharia courts in our country. I think they're totally right.
Well, I mean, like you even have that in the United States, but apparently even what happens around closed doors. Okay, and it's like how many generations does it take before the children, and it's really the newer generations that kind of echelon progress in some way.
Well,
The
yeah.
older you get, the harder you are to accept change. You know, it's
Except
kind
for
of.
some special people like Bernie.
But you could see it, but technically not necessarily because he's
No,
stuck
no,
to the
because he's
same
been
ways in
bedrocked
the
in that
sense that
progressiveness.
he's stuck to his progressiveness, right? He hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Technically even he has the old man syndrome where he's stuck to his shit. He doesn't give a fuck what anybody else says, and that's been
Yep.
clear when he's been debating Hillary. He doesn't care. And you know, and
He ain't got no time for that shit.
but I can see resistance from him. Bernie could destroy Hillary in a heated debate if he
Which
wanted
is
to. But he's reserved himself.
Yeah.
He's reserved himself. He's held off. He's gone just far enough,
Oh,
but
dude,
then
whenever
he's pulled back.
whenever
he
they
got
were.
that standing ovation, man.
Yeah, that was
look
pretty
on his
funny. Like
face.
the look on her face was just ridiculous. I was like, oh man, you could just tell she, like, I kind of felt bad for her because I could tell she just felt horrible because she was like, man, this really sucks.
Maybe I shouldn't have been such a
But
shitty
people-
person.
But people are, yeah. Hopefully, she would think that. But especially considering her roots, like she was
Yeah.
she was a hippie in her early days.
A hippie?
Tie-dye glasses and everything.
Dude, she was a Goldwater girl.
Yeah, I mean,
She was conservative.
but
No, she was seriously. She was conservative back
she
in her
was
day.
conservative. But she was conservative after Bill got office in Arkansas.
No, she was conservative before then because she was a writer for Goldwater. Like, a legal
Well,
writer.
people can be, but she had very other liberal ideas back then as well.
Well, I'm sure people can be very.
She was a
spoken
pot smoking hippie. I mean, people can be different. That doesn't necessarily make them conservative. Now,
But
of
it's
course,
not so much that-
she did turn conservative in the 80s and the 90s. But if you think about that, the 80s were the business era. That was the business era.
Well,
it
she
was
also did it really based around the polls.
yeah. Well, as a politician, and politics aren't really that hard to understand. If you want a good life, become a politician. It's very simple. A lot of people have caught on to it, and that's probably how the Congress we do. But she is not. I'm not saying she's a liberal, but I'm also saying that just because she voted for Goldwater doesn't necessarily mean that she's all conservative.
No, but at this point, right now, I know people say which Hillary, but at this point, right now, I can tell you what Hillary's there. It's a slightly, possibly left on some issues, authoritarian, and on most issues, right of center authoritarian.
Yeah, she's kind of a joke.
She's trying to appeal to a mass.
Yeah, I get it.
The Democratic Party who she thinks she's appealing to, and for a lot of parts, she's right. There's a lot of people in the Democratic Party who still aren't on the progressive boat. But the biggest part of us that would consider ourselves normally liberal aren't Democrats. We're independents.
Right, and you have Democrats in the Midwest who I actually checked this bill once, and it was like 3 years ago, but basically the bill was to say that anyone who wanted an abortion had to go through an ultrasound, and there was Democrats in the states who voted for that bill.
Yeah.
But they voted Democratic on pretty much everything else, and they had a hard stance on whether it be education or whether it be environment or anything else. But they also have these religiously held beliefs, and that's the thing about
it's a cognitive dissonance.
Progression versus regression, which is religion.
Well, I mean, it's not just that. I would say that people who are religiously minded are more likely to hold right-wing views. But I've talked to people who are totally atheists, like me, like any of us, right? But the views that they hold, like I've talked to atheists who are going to vote for Trump, right? I've done that. There are people like that. It just screams to the point that for the most part, yeah, religion has a big impact, but it's not just that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and like, Trump. The thing is like there has been some time of a question of like, how does he attract such a wide range of voters? He's actually doing not too bad against women. Women, actually, a good portion of Republican women are actually voting for Trump, despite the fact that like all the comments he made about Carla Fiona, all the derogatory, sexist things that he said.
In the Republican Party, probably don't like the women who are running for office in the Republican Party.
Carla Fiona gave up her campaign. There's no woman in the Republican. Well, I mean, unless you take, like, you can count Ted Cruz a little bit.
When she was running, you hard pressed to find a woman who was voting for her because she's a woman in the Republican Party, because they would be like, oh, she's a woman, but I don't know, Southern women who tend to come from that conservative background tend to be real judgy of other women.
They also tend to vote with their husbands, though, too. So if their husband for a candidate, they will go. I'm not going to vote for my candidate. I'll vote for his candidate.
Like one of the people I work with up at work, I would have never guessed it, but she's an atheist, right? But she's not like me kind of atheist that's gone through and research the arguments and all of that. She's just like, I just never really thought it was true kind of person. But she wants to vote for Trump, and I'm like, why? She's like, I don't know. He seems to speak his mind. And I made the point to her. I was like, so does a 2-year-old.
Yeah. That is perfect right there.
Yeah, that's true, but
Trump
that's
is
also
the
the thing. Like,
2-year-old.
people for some reason are attached to that Trump thing. People are attached to the Trump personality, where like they believe that he's this, like
Yeah.
authoritatively defiant person who will say anything that he wants, and he'll do anything he wants. He doesn't care what anybody else says, and they like that type of abrasive, egotistical image for some reason. It reminds them of the buff guy in the cologne commercials.
It's not just that.
Which he's totally not. He's like the total opposite. He just barks and barks and barks, but he doesn't have any bite. And
Well, the best comedians, dude, were like that, right? They come out on stage and they're abrasive and they're in your face and they don't give a fuck. It works to sell
But
that.
they don't they don't openly challenge the authority in the way in their jokes and in the way they real life. I mean,
Yeah, they do.
you have comedians who will tell jokes about cops, but in the next second they'll be, yes sir, yes ma'am, I'll do this, yes, if they get pulled over. So I mean,
Trump would be an
there's
example.
separation.
Yeah.
But people believe that the Trump that they see in person, as far as the Trump they see in rallies, the Trump they see in Republican debates or anything like that, is the same as a private Trump.
They
That's what I'm
probably
saying.
think
yeah, it's not. And also
Trump was flighty ever since that video of him with that eagle.
and like also like people don't understand that like he's not going to be able to do almost 90% of the things he's talking about doing, because there's a process there that has to be approved by
He's
bunch of
trying to
people.
become a dictator. Like,
But that's the
literally.
same as Democrats and Republicans. I mean, Hillary won't be able to pass 90% of what she wants. Bernie, unless Congress is completely revoted and
That's part of the
new
strategy.
people are voted. It's a strategy, but you also have people who are Bernie or bust. So how many people are Bernie and bust, and how many people who are voting Bernie are also willing to then vote in their congressional election if Bernie
That's part of
loses
the Bernie or
to
bust
change the
pledge.
Congress? Because even if Bernie loses to Hillary in the sense, and it still seems that way, as even if you hear the media speaks, it's going to be Hillary and Cruz instead of Hillary and Trump. I don't know what you guys think of that
I think
type of
I
race.
don't care what the media says at this point. Just like if I was more in tune with the election cycle back in 2008, I probably wouldn't have cared what the media said then either. I probably still would have voted for Obama.
Yeah, but the media is what defines what the majority of the Americans hear.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
like it or
but-
not,
but-
that's
yeah.
what they get their
But that's-
information from.
yeah.
But here's my thing: is the majority of Americans that are going to be voting this time around are not just getting what they hear from that.
And
They're also listening to like Ring of Fire Radio and the Young Turks, and
like internet changed politics majorly. Like now, like with the whole Hillary thing, like we knew about that almost immediately.
yeah.
And then ever since that happened, everybody's like, well, she's a liar. And then everybody started pointing out and digging all the old stuff that she used to talk about, which was pretty much not possible, 20 years ago.
It
Yeah.
was possible. It would just take a lot.
It would take a lot longer. It
Yeah,
wouldn't
like
exist.
it would have come out like mid-election, and they would have been researching it way back when she started campaigning.
I'm just saying, as the northern states light the way, and when California makes its decisive vote, and when Florida, I have a feeling, since Florida in Miami is where Bernie got the standing ovation, I have a feeling Florida might just be an upset.
Yeah, but then, like, if you have Bernie or bust, the upset could be not in the Democratic favor.
No, what I'm saying is the upset would be on the primary of Florida, where Bernie wins Florida.
Bernie may win Florida, but like I said, I mean, like it looks like because you have the superdelegates again who decide who goes on to become the Democratic nominee. You don't have the population or the popularity vote, or I mean, how many
Dumb.
superdelegates were at the Bernie rally when he had a standing ovation? You know,
I don't know, but that's not really
it's
the
that type
point.
of thing. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not really the point, but it's what
Even with
determines
the amount
who
of
will be the
super delegates,
nominee.
like with the amount of actual delegates out there right now versus the amount of super delegates Hillary has, if you listen to the media, um, she doesn't technically have those yet. They don't actually vote till July. Whenever the delegate numbers shift, a lot of them will come over to Bernie, and the more they shift, most of them will come over to Bernie. It's
How do you think that though?
because
What's
of
the idea
past
behind that?
elections. I
But
know every
I've also
election.
said in past elections, I've also pointed out the statistic that in past elections, a Democrat never follows another Democrat unless, like, of course, he's a VP and the Republican president dies or something like that, or when I mean
Yeah,
the Democratic
but
president
you
dies,
also have
he
to
takes over. So
understand.
there's no in the history of all the elections in the United States, never been a Democrat that followed another Democrat. It usually goes Democrat, Republican, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Republican, Democrat. The only thing that's changed has been through assassination or president dies.
Yes, but I would also
And
point
also,
out that while we're talking about party lines, you have to understand that the party lines shift, and when the party lines shift, it doesn't necessarily mean that the liberal or conservative label shifts with it. So whenever you're talking about Republican, Republican, Democrat, at certain points in history, you're actually talking about what today would be Democrat, Democrat, Republican.
right, but I mean, and that's true. But in this election, today's Republican and today's Democrat is today's Democrat and today's Republican. I mean,
Yeah,
politics shifts, and politics will shift. I mean, like
but this is the pivotal
when we're
point.
30 to 35 years old, I mean,
But
politics are going
this
to be
is
far
a
different.
this is the point at which politics shifts. This election, because right now we have a Democratic, primary candidate who is way farther left than the establishment Democratic candidate,
More
which
European
kind of
left.
creates a dichotomy among the Democratic voters in which they're saying, hey, the person we're voting for here happens to uphold all of these standards that, we find to be the core of the democratic principle at this time. Now we have a more centrist person over here that we will now consider to be the right-wing mouthpiece of politics. In a lot of ways, the rhetoric that Hillary is saying now in the next election cycle can be the Republican rhetoric. So,
Well, I mean, if you ask a lot of people, what she says is Republican.
yeah, that's my point.
Well, I mean, but
If you're not right, you're
but the
wrong.
people who are, but she's being elected as a Democrat because she portrays that Democratic feel. Bernie is a true socialist. He's a European left. I mean, pretty much. I mean, that's how left he is.
He's what the country needs, not what it deserves. I'm just saying.
Not what it deserves. Well, I don't know, but I don't know about that. But it certainly, I
It's
mean,
making the reference to the Batman stuff. In other words, Gotham is such a corrupt city. Why does it deserve Batman?
but that corruptedness could prevent him enough by itself from him being elected and electing an establishment person like Hillary Clinton. There's no Obama this time. I mean, Bernie. Don't get me wrong. Bernie has a youth vote, but Bernie doesn't have the youth attention like Hillary Clinton does. There's a split.
Wait, no, Bernie has way more youth attention than does Hillary.
Not in
Hillary
every
is seen as
place. I mean,
uncool grandma.
Hillary's
Uncool
won in
grandma.
different states.
But no, dude, like on the internet, Bernie is king.
But the
And
internet isn't the election booth. You have
I
to actually
know.
get people to move from their house to
Yes.
the actual election booth.
But I can show you a picture of one of the primary loadouts that happened on the 12th, showing Agno. This is North Carolina. This is for a rally. Literally, they started admitting people into this place an hour before this photo was taken, and the line to get into the place was over a mile long. When I say the Bernie people are way more enthusiastic and he's king of the internet, they're also way more to get out and
They
actually
also have
be at the
more
rallies.
energy because they're young.
Yeah,
And
so you look at a Hillary rally, right? And then look at a Bernie rally. Look at the majority of the rallies. There are far more people showing up at Bernie rallies than there are at Hillary rallies.
But
That doesn't mean anything about the vote, but that does say something about whether or not the people who are going out to vote Bernie are actually going to get out and vote Bernie.
Right, but I mean, if you've seen and so far in those elections, those little voting places to choose the nominees, she's had a greater time than Bernie.
I wouldn't say so. It depends on what state.
But even if you win the state popularity-wise, you don't necessarily win the superdelegates from that state.
No, you wouldn't necessarily win the superdelegates, but that's why I said before, the superdelegates' positions shift. And the reason I think they will shift this time, and the reason I think that we will have another Democratic president, is because this time around, the Democratic president we would elect in Bernie is not really a Democrat. He's like a Labor Party progressive. And Hillary would then be considered the Republican, and then the people over there in the GOP would be considered like the far right. Which is what they are.
If he was accepted, I mean, you would, because if Bernie wins, which would be a good thing, right? If Bernie wins, you have to then get those same people to come out and vote for Congress, which hasn't always been easy, because even people who voted for Obama overwhelmingly didn't then go out and vote in congressional elections afterwards, which didn't necessarily help when it came to him enacting democratic legislation, because then there was an already built-up resistance to him. Bernie is going to get 10 times that resistance because they view him as a socialist.
But guess what happened whenever this flub happened, when massive amounts of people didn't turn up to vote for their congressional stuff? We had, I guess, an awakening in the country from all the youth who didn't really understand or get why that was important, because a lot of the laws that were then passed afterwards directly affected them. So this time around, I think you'll see a much bigger turnout, especially since the person who's campaigning for this idea of radical change is campaigning in the way that his rhetoric is we. You know, we have to get out and vote, not just in the primaries, not just in the general election, but also in the congressional election. That's why you see so many posts that people who are for Bernie that are also sharing the meme that is, you don't think he can get anything done? Well, remember that in 2017, 88% of the House and Senate seats are up for election. So,
but I mean, how often does that happen? I mean, it happened with Obama first time, second time.
I mean, I get what you're saying, dude, but the only way it's going to get done is if we actually go out and do it.
Yep.
And so
that's the hardest part.
But going around saying like, dude, like what we're not going to be able to do this because, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do here? Well, we don't necessarily know, but we do know that we have to do something. And I think the majority of us are starting to get that. That's why this whole trend on the internet with being quote unquote woke as fuck is a thing.
Woke as fuck is a thing?
Yeah.
Woke as fuck.
Your dog does not look woke as fuck.
Yeah, no, like what it means is like you're trying to become aware of what's going on. You want to be a part of the process to make sure that this country works for you.
Right, and I understand that. Like I'm behind that. Like I said, like I like Bernie. I mean, I like his ideas, his policies. Certainly, free education.
Well,
I'm for free education.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. I think about how to provide it, how to get it started, how to motivate people to get behind an idea.
This rhetoric that Hillary's spewing about it not being possible to have single-payer healthcare system or not being possible to have universal education, even speaking out against it as if you need to earn the right to be educated, like as if it's something that you have to buy. No, I'm sorry, but these are too pivotal. These are two pivotal things in society that you cannot have a successful or sustainable economy without. People need to be healthy and they need to be educated. Those two things will provide far more wealth for everyone involved than it would if you leave those two things up to market forces. Because market forces aren't interested in the outcome of the product, they're interested in the profit they can get from it. So within the pharmaceutical industries, and us paying so much more than other countries for the medication that we get, the medication that you're given isn't necessarily based on whether or not it's the most effective, it's based on whether or not it's the best-selling one. So, we fix that. We fix it to where the single-payer system lowers these costs by right, because you now have the right to go and seek medical attention. Now, the drugs that they're going to give you are going to be the ones that are most effective, not necessarily the ones that line the pockets the best. The same thing with education. You'll get more effective education whenever it's not tied to some profit scheme in which people who are genuinely good teachers are laid off because they don't want to fit the schematic of the campus. It seems integral to me for society to have those two things stapled down so that society can actually reach its potential, not just a few of the people within that society exploiting the rest of the people for.
Uh-oh.
I'm having.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
You good?
Oh, okay. We're
Okay,
having
I
some
agree with that. I agree with that.
issues. Yeah.
Okay. I agree that we shouldn't. That there shouldn't be a system automatically set up where the few benefit or the majority. But that's the system you have. So let's say, okay, so you're gonna fight that system, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna need a plan, right?
Well,
You're gonna need a plan. Besides action,
yeah.
besides the enthusiasm to do something and everything like that, you're gonna need a plan because a plan is better than nothing.
You know what the plan is in a democratic
You need
society?
a plan A, B, and C, and then D is wing it. Okay.
Okay, here's what the plan is in a democratic society. You get out and you vote the people in who are actually going to get this stuff done.
Cool.
Now, what the reason we already have the idea. We already have what needs to be done. We have models of how it's actually effective in other places. It's not that hard to draft up.
All right, guys. I think we should start wrapping this up because it's already 1 a.m.
Wow, this has been a long one.
Yeah, it was a
been a
good
good
one
one,
too.
though.
The most viewers we had at one point was 2.
That's a vast improvement over zero.
That's a 50% improvement.
Thank you for watching.
That's a 200% improvement over zero.
Yeah.
I'm not good at math, but that sounded good.
But
Actually,
Yeah.
over zero, it's an infinite percentage improvement.
I just want to say, I really am glad you guys are starting to watch and to like and comment.
Yes, thank you.
Definitely want to know, throw out some topics and stuff because whenever we start having chats, a live chat going here, I do want to see like some topics that we can jump on and some things that people want to say.
Yeah, viewer questions. Viewer questions are great.
Yeah.
But the thing is like we'll have to set up when we get popular enough.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna have a better setup eventually. It's just right now we're still in the middle of doing things, and
I was just gonna say when you get popular enough on a podcast and you have a general chat, it's gonna be filled with a whole bunch of trolls and a whole bunch of people typing things so quickly that it's gonna.
Well, I'm sure like by that time
That's why you get moderators.
Moderators.
Also just invite guests on.
Yeah.
That who have questions.
We're gonna have The
That's a
Rock
good thing.
on
Best
here one day.
guess.
That would be
Yes.
so cool if we could have Rock on.
Stone Cold and
We're gonna have Donald Trump on air.
Donald Trump and Wiz Khalifa.
Wiz Khalifa.
We're also going to bring back Adolf Hitler from the dead to have a conversation with Donald Trump. It'll be very interesting.
I thought we had Bill Maher.
What if he came back and it was just like Donald Trump?
I imagine I've always like, dude. I want to make like you've seen those Hitler things where they take that movie where it has Hitler and they change the subtitles.
Yeah.
I want to make one about him talking about Trump
or saying something exactly that Trump said.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great idea, Chris.
Do it. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay, like we just take like the quotes from one of Trump's rallies and put them at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that would be great. But also you could have one
huge,
where
guys. Germany's gonna be huge.
All right, let's go ahead and close this podcast. This is
all right.
A little bit too long. Like I said, like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff.
No, you want to.
Comment, like, and subscribe.
No, you want
also
to.
share.
You
Sharing
love us.
is caring.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.
My name is Mr. Sticker Dick in my balls.